In today's video, we'll delve into the journey of Sam Rose, better known as Massano, who has quickly made some waves in the electronic dance music industry. Started with the releases on Running Clouds, he immediately got a lot of support from the heavyweight artists, and then at some point he was signed to Afterlife, which really was his breakthrough moment. It's a really inspiring process to see him go from a festival visitor to an artist like this in such a short time. His sound can be characterized by heavy bass shots and transient heavy sounds, and today I'm going to take you through all the elements that you need in order to create a style in the track of Massano. Before we start, if you want to check out some Melodic Techno sample packs, we just released our new pack Voyage, and you can check it out in the link in the description. At the moment of the upload of this video, there's actually also a Black Friday sale going on, so if you're planning on getting some packs, it's best to do it now because you can save up to 70% on selected sample packs. For now, enough talking, and let's dive straight into the video. So I can start by explaining the foundation of the track, which is basically the kick and the bass. And in this case, it consists out of the kick, the sub bass, which is a rolling bass, and a top bass. And we'll go over each element and explain the choice on why this fits this style. Easiest is to just start with the kick. And as you can see, it's from our pack Voyage, and it sounds like this. It's a kick that kind of characterizes his sound, so a lot of punch on every sound, a lot of transient. And this kick really resembles his sound pretty well, really punchy and deep. Next up, you want to choose a deep rolling bass, in this case in a simple 1/16 rhythm, which is basically the most common rhythm in Melodic Techno. So that's nothing out of the ordinary, and for that we're using the preset called Bass Arch, which is a perfect preset to create these rolling kind of basses. You can see it consists out of a Moog saw, which is a wavetable we sampled from the Moog right behind me. And then there is a Uno wavetable, which is more of a squarish wavetable. And they are layered both together, pitched down 2 octaves and 3 octaves, and linked through a filter, which is opening up only halfway, which gives you that kind of filtered subby sound. In the effects section, just some delay and reverb. Make sure to low cut the reverb because otherwise you will really run into trouble. Then the processing, also really straightforward. Some slight distortion right here. Some blood overdrive distortion, but really subtly with the Destructor stock plugin in the Veil Studio. Then this one is the most important, so the sidechain over here, which is set to 100% as it's a sub-focused bass, which we do not want to interfere with kick. That's why I also use a pretty heavy sidechain shape over here, because then in this area over here there will be enough room left for the kick to kind of punch through, and then you create this groove kind of with the rolling bass queen, and this just works all the time. So together with the kick, that will sound like this. Now we can accentuate the rhythm a little bit by adding a top bass. And in this case, I'm using the bass called Deserted from the Voyage pack, which consists out of a saw and a random PWM wavetable with some voices of unison to make it a bit more wide. And then there's this short envelope 1 linked to the MG Low 18 cutoff, really straightforward as well. Then some delay and a low cut filter, so right here with this macro on, so I make sure that there's no low frequency response from the sound, because we already have that covered by the sub and the kick. So this one really will just play a rhythmic kind of top to accentuate the rhythm and add some more danceable groove. For that you can just easily play around with adding some notes on top of the 1/16 rhythm, and in this case I came up with this. Post-processing, as you can see, there's a bit less sidechain and one more low cut to really make sure that the lows are eliminated. And the delay in the serum itself also makes a pretty big difference, as we really want this top bass also to add some depth to the layer. You will definitely hear the difference it makes immediately. So this is with, and without it would sound way more like bland. Really easy way to make your basses more interesting. And as simple as it may seem, that's the foundation of your bass and kick. From there you can start adding some elements, and that's also the part where I think you can kind of get the Masano sound, because this is pretty straightforward melodic techno right now. But now we'll move on to the steps, where I will talk about how Masano kind of creates his signature hard-hitting bass steps. So I'll first play the sound, and it sounds like this. And as you can hear, it sounds really, really hard and harsh, but still nice in a way, which is basically how I would describe all of the bass steps of Masano. They are really kind of pushed to the limit, and I will now show you how that's done. So first of all, of course, you come up with a rhythm, and in this case, it's kind of a rhythm that's derived from the top bass. So here, this is the same, and then in between, just repeat it and add some variations right here in terms of speed, but actually pretty straightforward. So here's the sound in Serum, and we have oscillator A with a basic mini saw wavetable, pitch down 2 octaves, and then oscillator B, which is the same wavetable but just on 0 octaves. And then we have the FM modulation from the lower oscillator right here, which adds some grit, and we added some movement to this modulation with envelope 2. Also linked the envelope 2 to the MGLO 12 filter, and as you can see, it's kind of fully opened up and there's some drive to it. So that's why it's this really bright and harsh high sound, because there's not that much filtering going on. Then some noise right here, and one of the really vital parts of this sound is this envelope 3, which is a really short attack envelope, because it's linked to oscillator B chorus pitch. And that's like a classic trick that you can use if you really want that punch. And you will see it more in this video, because you really need this punchy, hard, transient sounds for this style. Then there is some tape saturation, some chorus. Then there's an EQ with some high mid boosts and a little delay right here in Serum itself. Then for the post-processing, first this EQ right here, boosting some of the low mids and the treble frequencies, while rolling off the sub frequencies. We want this sound to cover a lot of the frequency spectrum. We're not doing a too harsh cut, but still we don't want it to interfere with the sub. And then I just analyzed it and found some regions that kind of needed a little boost to make it sound more big and more bright. Then next up an OTT, which kind of just crunches the sound one more time and kind of squashes it even more. Just adds that little crisp grittiness to the sound, which is perfect for this purpose over here. Some slight vintage chorus to further widen up the sound. Some reverb with the wet level set to 50% and 1.6 seconds of decay. Some low cut and a high cut to add some more room to the sound. And then a sidechain set to 60%, as we still want to maintain some of this punch that we really need in this sound. So together with the rest of the elements I showed so far, that sounds like this. Really harsh, but you already hear this kind of Masano signature sound in it. If you want to do this yourself, just remember that it involves a lot of kind of layering with processing and just kind of pushing a sound to the limit as before. Then coming back, talking about punch and transients, there's this trick which works really well for this. That's adding a percussion on top of the bass step. And I will now let you hear what it sounds like. And it just adds that tiny extra punch, which does a really great job. And it's just a perk from our pack. The high, pretty sharp. Again, some delay, some reverb, and an OTT. No sidechain for this one, as we really want to let this function as a kind of transient. So we don't need sidechain on it. And in the overall sound, it just makes a huge difference, which you can clearly hear in demonstration. In my opinion, the element that really makes or breaks a track in this style, which is the top lead playing some chords on top of the other elements. And that sounds like this. Really big and really in your face sound, but once again, that's what this genre and this sound is about. This layer just enhances the harmonic aspect of the track, and it just fills up the whole body, the whole frequency spectrum, make it sound really, really full. And this is a really straightforward sound as well, with once again the two Mooksal wavetables on 0 octaves, with oscillator B fine-tuned a bit detuned on the analog way. Then envelope 2 is this short envelope, which is linked to the cutoff, just to add some extra punch, because it's just opening up from like 10,000 hertz to the complete 22 hertz, and that just adds some more punch to the sound. While envelope 1 still has some sustain left, so if you hold a note, it will continue playing. Then envelope 3, once again, coming back to the transient part, linked to both chorus pitches to really add this punch to the sound. And then there's some noise, and the sub oscillator is not turned on in this case. Some chorus and delay, and a little boost in the highs in the EQ, and you have this sound. For the post-processing, a low cut once again, a slight dip in the low miss as the step is already quite prominent there. So that's the thought behind this one. We boosted some on the step, and then we create some room by ducking it on this layer. And adding some treble frequencies just makes it right overall. And again, an OTT. So already you see that this genre is all about adding transients, squashing the sounds with OTT to get this really hard, like maybe even super compressed sound that Masano does in his own tracks a lot. Then there is a sidechained reverb linked to the peak controller. So the reverb is opening up when the sound is not playing, and the reverb kind of ducks when the sound is playing. That's really a cool trick to use on these kind of sounds, because you want it to hit, to have punch. And that's what you can do with this, and you can see it right here that the mix is manipulated by the peak controller. Then talking about the MIDI, it's pretty straightforward. So the D right here and the D right here is just a copy of the bass step rhythm and the notes of the bass step. And then harmonies are added by adding a perfect fifth right here. And you can basically use also a third, fourth, whatever you feel like. Then you can use slight variations, just a top melody playing in the same synth. And for example, here on the end, you can create even more harmonic variation. But pretty straightforward. So this is just the bass step copied 2 times. And as I told you, this really takes it to another level. Instead of being like a more of a standard Melodic Techno track, combination between the really harsh step and lead really fills up everything basically. As you can see, there's this kind of interplay between the lead and the perk. So the lead contributes to the transient and to the overall body of the sound. So then the perk is not playing. And as kind of a reaction to the lead stopping, you have the perk playing right here on top of the step. Last but not least, as an element, you can add a top plug, which just plays a kind of a mysterious top melody. Also, these slight variations in rhythm are really, really nice to play around with. And the sound is once again 2 saw waves with oscillator B having 2 voices of unison. Yeah, well, it's just a filtered saw plug base. Really straightforward. And those were the synth elements of the drop already. So let's now move on to the drums. And I have the drums for the drop right here, which is a really simple layer because there's already so much going on with these bass steps and the leads. You do not have to fill up too much in the drop. So as you can hear this top loop, which is really kind of a texture loop, adds some groove to it. You can hear that already with the kick. And then there's this closed head layered on the kick to make it even more punchy. Masano likes to use really hard and short snares, almost kind of trance snares. So that's why I chose this one from our Voyage pack. And there's some noise effect in between. Then slowly, at some point, the ARP is coming in and the rest of the elements will go out. Then you can add some more elements like a head. Oops. Really long open head, which works really well in this case. So together with the drums, the drop sounds like this. So maybe this already shows you that the whole sound is maybe a bit more straightforward than you have in your head. And I would also recommend to not overcomplicate things because it's not always needed. And now let's move on to the final part, which is the final arrangement. I will now take you through the thought process of that. So this is what a final arrangement of a track like this would look like. And it basically consists of a long intro where you kind of tease all the sounds. Then a part of silence, because if you use silence in the right way in the genre, it works really well. Where you slowly bring back all the elements of the drop. Then you have the climax, which is the drop I just showed you. For the FX, I added some ambience, some sweeps, some down filters, just kind of to make everything transition into each other more smoothly and to fill up some empty spaces in, for example, the highs with ambience right here. So the intro is just the kick and the bass with some filter. And then this part is interesting to show to you guys. Kind of a breakdown. So I added a pad, which is from our pack, and changed up the notes a little bit. Create some variety in the overall track and like emotional depth to the track. Just make sure that you stay in the key that you're working in. Trust your ears on that and it will be fine. And some more notes here on top create even more tension towards the drop. So together with the FX and some of the drum sounds, that will sound really big. And then here we introduce the lead and the step. So you really kind of get that moment on the dance floor where people will be like, what's going to happen? And then you introduce these. You slightly filter them to not give away everything, but you already hear what's coming. And then with this vocal before the drop.
You can't control us.
And Masano likes to use vocoders, so I'm using this Vocodex preset, which turns it into a vocoder.
You can't control us.
And then the drop will hit really nice with this clap in front of it, which kind of is functioning as an impact. And that sounds like this.
You can't control us.
And that's a quick overview on how you can achieve this sound like Masano. I tried to cover all the main elements that are really important and inherent to this style. For now, let me take you guys through the end result of this video one more time.
us.
You can't control us.
So that's it for this video. As I said, if you have any questions, leave a comment down below. All the sounds and including the project file are included in our new pack Voyage. So if you want to check that out, go to the link in the description. The Black Friday sale we're running right now will run to December 2nd. If you still want to grab some deals, make sure to do it before that, because after that prices will go back to regular. And we're doing these sales once a year, so this is the only chance to save on sample packs. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.